Welcome to the Patriots Pulse Preview Show. I'm your host, John Sarianides, and I'm joined by my partner, John Sapichetti. John, good morning. How are you on this fine Sunday morning?
Good morning, John. It's football Sunday, so that always excites us. And Patriots are coming off their biggest win in several years, so now it's down in New Orleans to take on the Saints.
Yes, indeed. And we're starting a little early here. We were going to start at 10 o'clock, but we figured we'd jump right on and just start talking football. And Patriots, of course, coming off a big 23-20 win last Sunday night in Buffalo. A season-defining win, an organizational-defining win from the standpoint that you can make the case this is probably their biggest win in the last 5 years, John. But now you got to move on from it. It was a nice win. You enjoy it Sunday. Heck, you even enjoy it Monday. Big win for the organization, coming out party of sorts for Drake May. But look, in football, you got to have short-term memory. I don't care what level it is. I've said this as a head coach. I've said this as a coordinator. You win a big game. It's great. It feels good. Enjoy it responsibly that night, but the next day you got to move on to next week. And that's the nature of the business. And the Patriots, I'm sure, were reminded of that by Mike Vrabel that, hey, it's time now to move on to New Orleans, a place where the Patriots have had a lot of success. In their history, they're 10-6 all time in the regular season against the New Orleans Saints, including 5-1 in New Orleans, 4-1 at the Superdome. And we all know their Super Bowl history there as well. It's a place that's been good to the Patriots for the most part. Their only loss was during the 2009 season, that Monday night game where Bill Belichick infamously said to Tom Brady that he doesn't know if he's reaching this team and how much he can get out of them. And I'm paraphrasing there. But they've had a lot of success against the Saints, John. And look, Saints are 1-4. They won their first game of the season last week, 26-14 over the New York Giants. But let's face it, this is one of the worst teams in the league. In essence, they're in a rebuild. But their roster is interesting because when you dissect their roster, and I spent a lot of time looking at it this week in preparation for today, there's still some talent there. Even though they're a 1-4 football team with a first-year head coach, this is a team that if you come into this game sleepwalking, this is a team that could beat you, especially at home.
They win the turnover battle week by week. They did it last week against the New York Giants. And you look at their schedule, they lost by 7 to Arizona when Arizona was playing pretty good football early in the season. Then they lost by 5 to the 49ers. They got blown out by the Seahawks. They were very competitive against the Buffalo Bills. In fact, they were so competitive against the Bills that kind of led me into thinking the Patriots could beat the Bills last week because New Orleans went up there and ran the football very effectively. And last week they beat a Giants team who in the last 3 weeks beat an undefeated Chargers team and beat the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. And in between, it was New Orleans that beat the Giants. Now, we know this is a week-to-week league. There are no great teams, so who the hell knows what's going to happen. I always reference the Carolina Panthers, who 1 week shut out the Atlanta Falcons 30-0. The following lose 42-13 to the Patriots. How can you predict these games? It's very, very difficult. But is that more on the coach or is it on some of the veteran players to make sure that the younger players are focused and say, yeah, that was a great win for us Sunday night. Everyone was watching. We're in the race now for the division. We can go toe-to-toe with the Buffalo Bills, but we've got to move on. A lot of that has to come from the coach, but how much of that has to come from those veteran players, the leaders on the team?
Yeah, it has to come from those guys as well. Obviously, the messaging starts with the head coach, but the veteran players also need to be the ones, especially guys that have been around the league, that have been in other organizations that have had success. Guys like Carlton Davis comes to mind. He won a Super Bowl in Tampa Bay. Those are the guys that have to say, hey, listen, and Milton Williams is another one, obviously. Those guys were brought here not only to improve the team on the field, but they were brought here to lead the team off the field as well. And those have to be the guys that have to step up and say, look, that was nice. It feels good, but we got bigger fish to fry here. And I think that that's an apropos saying, considering they're playing in New Orleans this week. But those guys have to be the ones that essentially extend Vrabel's messaging when it comes to anything he wants the team to hear. Those guys have to be the ones that echo that sentiment and reinforce that messaging. And I think the message this week has to be, yeah, that was a nice win. Yes, it was a big win, but we've got to act like we've been there. Now we've got a business trip to New Orleans. We got to go back on the road this week. We got to go down there. And I wrote about this on Friday, John. In many ways, this is the ultimate trap game, right? Because on paper, you're looking at a 1-4 football team. They're not very good, but This is a team that's coming off their first win of the season. This is a team that has a bright, young, innovative head coach. This is a team that still has a lot of veteran talent. This is also a team that has a pretty distinct home field advantage. That's a tough place to play despite the Patriots' historical success there. So, absolutely, to your point, yes, Vrabel's the one that's got to be driving that message home this week about moving on and taking care of business this week. But the guys you brought in here, those high-priced free agents that have won championships elsewhere that know what it takes, they have to be the guys that are echoing that sentiment. Because, again, it's very easy for young players, especially rookies, to look at this and say, hey, you know what? We're good now. We beat the Buffalo Bills. We beat arguably the best team in the AFC. If we can beat them, we can beat anybody. We're the New England Patriots. You know, we're the creme de la creme now. It doesn't matter. We're going to go down there and win just because we're better. Yeah, you are better, but that can't be your mindset. Again, the talent difference in this league is razor thin. The margin for error, as we always say, is also razor thin. All it takes is one or two bad plays to go against you, and all of a sudden this 1-4 football team just beat you. So I think that the veterans play a big part in reinforcing the importance of moving on to the next game and focusing on this week.
And we'll be able to see the continuing growth of Drake May, right? Second-year quarterback who's starting to show those leadership abilities that we think he has. Steph Diggs also is a key contributor to that because he's played in big games. He knows what it takes to win on the road against mediocre opponents or against good opponents. And he was massive on Sunday night. He was, I think, reason number 1A that you won that game along with Drake May. And you can also throw in that the defense was pretty darn good in holding Buffalo to 20 points. But that's going to be something that they have to look at. The key, as someone who covers the team like you do, and I kind of cover them from 30,000 feet, you kind of woke up Monday morning and said, holy crap, this AFC is wide open. I mean, you just beat Buffalo, considered the best team in the AFC. Baltimore doesn't have Lamar Jackson. They're 1-4. Cincinnati doesn't have Joe Burrow. They're 2-3. They're bringing in Joe Flacco. I guess Vinny Testaverde wasn't available. And then you go to see the Kansas City Chiefs, who are always in the AFC Championship game. They're 2-3, and they're playing the Lions this week. It's like this thing is wide open. This is not just, oh, here's the upper tier of teams in the AFC, and they're going to meet in the divisional round at some point. The thing is completely wide open, and you did what you did last week and beating the Bills in Buffalo, and you did it in really, I'm not saying convincing fashion. It was a 3-point win, but you looked the part in that game, right? I mean, you looked like you belonged on the field with them, and you beat them. And that, to me, is more impressive than anything. And I sound like a broken record with Drake May. You now have a dude that you go into a game against those top-tier quarterbacks, and you have a guy who's with at least in shouting range of those guys. Is he as good as them yet? No. Is he going to be better than them? Probably not, but he can be as good as them. But you have a dude that can be your quarterback that can go mano-a-mano against the other team.
Yeah, it's amazing how much the tone has changed around here in the last 2 weeks. I mean, you go back to that Pittsburgh game 3 weeks ago, and the sky was falling, and all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, you blow out Carolina at home, you pick up a big win on Sunday Night Football at Buffalo, and all of a sudden, people are talking playoffs again. People are talking the possibility of a division title again. People are talking about this team potentially, given how easy their schedule is on paper moving forward, possibly being a top 2 or 3 seed and making a playoff run. I caution people, though, to not put the cart before the horse here. You said this earlier, and it's so true. This is a week-to-week league, so we have to pace ourselves here. It's very easy to look at this schedule and say, yes, everything lines up for them. They should win anywhere from 12 to 13 games. Now that's the number that's out there. At the beginning of the year, we were talking about potentially 8 or 9. That would have been a really good season. And then all of a sudden they lose to the Raiders. They lose ugly to the Steelers, a game they should have won. They outplayed Pittsburgh, turned the ball over 5 times. Now we're falling back, saying that maybe this is a 6-11 football team. Then they win 2 in a row, and now we're back on the wagon, so now it's a potential 12-win team. I think look, and it's easy, and I'm as guilty of this as anybody, and I said this to our good friend John Lyons after the game on Sunday, where now all of a sudden the conversation does need to change. We do need to start looking at them as a possible playoff team. But I also think that it's important that we remember there's a lot of factors that go into this thing, John. Okay? First and foremost is health. Drake May's got to stay healthy. You've already lost Antonio Gibson for the season, a much bigger part of this offense and this team than people think. You got to keep Drake May healthy. You got to stay healthy collectively, okay? And look, this is not only a week-to-week league, but it is the ultimate matchup league as well. In some weeks, you're going to have better matchups than others. I look at this game on paper, John, and I truly believe this, and I'm not saying this to curb people's enthusiasm. This is a tough matchup for the Patriots. On paper, this New Orleans team is dangerous. As I said earlier, they've got a good blend of veterans and young talent. You look at them at receiver, they got guys that can make big plays. And the Patriots secondary, as good as their defense has played this year, their secondary has struggled at times, especially when Christian Gonzalez was out. He's back. We don't know if he's going to play today. He's going into this game questionable. It appears his hamstring issue may have flared up again this week. He was a limited participant. But I think it's important to point out that one of New Orleans' strengths is their perimeter skill. You got Olave. You got Shaheed. You got old friend Brandon Cooks. They have guys that they can get the ball to that can make plays in space but can also make plays vertically. And so the Patriots, and again, I said this in my game plan this morning, I think it's really important if you're Zach Kerr, if you're Vrabel, if you're this defensive staff, it is paramount that the plan this week is more about coverage, less about blitzing, and more about disguising. It's got to be about coverage and disguising, trying to create confusion for Spencer Rattler, giving him the illusion that there are windows there that he can throw to that closed post snap. And it's more about TE stunts if you want to get pressure and base pressure than it is about bringing the fifth and the sixth guy. I really believe that, because when you look at the Patriots in terms of the raw numbers, John, they're in the bottom of the league when it comes to covering in pressure situations. They're 29th in covering when they pressure and covering when they blitz. That's not good, ranking 29th in the league in those situations. So I think against a team like this that has some potential on the perimeter, I think it's really important that the emphasis defensively this week be more about coverage, disguising, and movement up front than it is about blitzing and generating pressure.
And also something you have to watch is Alvin Kamara. In his ninth season, still a very productive player. If he gets matched up against a linebacker, then the Saints can take advantage of that.
Yes.
We know the quarterback
is
very
more of a factor in this game today as a receiver than he is as a runner.
Absolutely.
Which we're going to get to the running game in a sec, but I'm glad you brought that up. That is a concern of mine. If you decide you want to play more nickel or even dabble in some base stuff, now you're running the risk of getting him on a linebacker or a safety potentially, depending on how they use him and how they match up. But yeah, no, that's a valid point.
Yeah, I mean, he's an outstanding player, even at this advanced age. He can make big plays for you. He can move the chains.
Advanced ages, I mean, what is he, 30? 31?
Yeah, well, a running back
maybe
in that
32.
sport.
I don't know his age off the top of my head, but I mean, we make him sound like he's getting AARP stuff in the mail. I mean,
well, he's not quite as amazing as your guy Frank Gore, but I mean, he's still pretty amazing to be.
You were the one
30.
that didn't think Frank Gore was a Hall of Famer, which is I still don't understand how you could ever utter those words.
We'll have a debate show at some point about Frank.
We will, because that is. You and I have done radio together for 15 years. I respect the hell out of you and your opinions. That might be your worst one. That might be your worst opinion, whether it comes to pop culture, sports, politics, whatever it might be.
Frank Gore.
That might be your worst opinion. Yes.
Okay. All right. I'll keep plugging away. I'm trying to irritate you as best as I can. Maybe I'll be irritating Frank Gore. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's not going to make it on his first ballot. I'm 100% sure.
No,
he's not going to make it on his ballot. But I don't think
digress.
He makes it. That's right. We don't want to talk about Frank Gore, who had a big Super Bowl in New Orleans when he played for.
Right, but he's not a Hall of Famer.
He's not a Hall of Famer. No. Well, I can't go by that. Right. But when we look at this New Orleans team, I'm a big fan of Kellen Moore. That team is playing hard. They're winning the turnover battle. They're showing up and they're being competitive. And they may have the bottom 5 roster in the league. Now, they have some interesting pieces there, like you talked about. Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara, Cam Jordan on the defensive side of the ball. Maybe when we get to the November 5th trade deadline, they move some of those pieces for draft picks. But this team is shown itself well in the first 5 weeks. And now you look at Kellen Moore, who was the offensive coordinator in Philadelphia last year, see the struggles the Eagles are having. And it's more than just changing offensive coordinators. It's obviously lack of health on the offensive line. And is Jalen Hurts really that elite quarterback that you and I don't think he is? But that shows what Kellen Moore meant to that Philadelphia team last year when they won the Super Bowl. So I'm impressed with that. I think they're going to show up and battle the Patriots today and make a game of this. And like you said, John, the ultimate trap game, biggest win since Tom Brady left town, occurred last Sunday in Buffalo. Next week, you're going to Tennessee, which is a revenge game for Mike Vrabel. In the middle of that is New Orleans. Now, the Patriots are on a 3-game road swing. This is the middle game. It's kind of rare in the NFL. The Patriots have done it a grand total of 13 times in their franchise history. 5 times they went 1-2. 7 times they went 2-1, and 1 time they went 0-3. Now, they didn't have many 3-game road trips with Brady because the league kind of gets away from them in the last 20, 25 years. This is a great opportunity to do this for the first time in franchise history, to sweep a 3-game road trip, because you're a 4.5-point favorite in New Orleans. You're going to be favorite in Tennessee. You should be able to take advantage of this kind of soft spot in the schedule and get to 5-2, which would be phenomenal at this point as we're heading towards Halloween. But yeah, trap game, because you still have a lot of young players on the team that haven't experienced that. And that's why I think it's so important for those veterans and Drake May, your quarterback, your leader, to make sure everyone's focused when they kick off at 1:00.
By the way, you should have saved this outfit for the week of the Halloween game instead of wearing it today. I mean, you're giving jack-o'-lantern vibes here, so just saying. Draw a couple of eyes. Draw a couple of eyes right over here on the top of your shirt.
Well,
here so we can give people the visual.
My 2 favorite colors are purple and orange, and they don't sell purple clothes, so I wear orange clothes because a thing with my visual
purple
issues.
And orange. What were you, a fan of the Berlin Thunder back in the days? in NFL Europe, purple.
The old Phoenix Suns were Walter.
Actually, it wasn't the Berlin Thunders. What am I talking about? It was the Frankfurt Galaxy. They're the ones that had the purple and orange.
Well, that's your call. I'm sticking with the Phoenix Suns circa 1981 with purple and orange with Walter Davis. Cotton Fitzsimmons and John McLeod. Absolutely.
There you go.
Those are some of my favorite teams. So, yeah, plus you can't miss me in this shirt. You know, if I'm out in a store with someone and they got to locate me, the orange shirt comes in handy. So I'll wear this next week, too, if need be, right up to Halloween. A different shirt. I don't have just one of them. I have many of them. So, yeah, that's where I'm really concerned, is that the Patriots come out, get an early lead, maybe take that crowd out and just show that you're the better team, which you are. And that's really when you can see the maturity of a team, when they take care of business against the team that you're supposed to beat. But, John, 5 weeks into this league, this season, I can't figure this league out. I really can't.
It really, that's a great point. I mean, I don't want to sit here and say I don't know if we've ever seen this much parity, but there's a lot of parity in the league right now. I mean, look, the Philadelphia Eagles were kind of the standard coming off of winning the Super Bowl and coming into the season. I think a lot of people thought that we could potentially see Philadelphia Kansas City 3 again. I know a lot of people were also down on the Chiefs. But I think in the NFC, we thought, all right, Green Bay trades for Micah Parsons could be a threat to them. Detroit, you've got the coordinator changes. They didn't look good in week 1 against the Packers. They get whacked. Maybe they take a step back. All of a sudden, nope, they're still as good as they've been the last few years. But we still thought, all right, Philadelphia in the NFC is the standard. Now, all of a sudden, they come out, they lose to Denver last Sunday. And then out of left field, they get whacked on Thursday night, 34-17 by their rivals, the New York Giants, a Giants team that's starting a rookie quarterback in only his third start and a rookie running back. But again, to your point, it just goes to show you how much parity there is in this league. And I've always said this about football, John, especially in the NFL. Again, we don't want to beat the dead horse here when we say this, but it really truly is a week-to-week league. But as I said earlier, it's also a matchup league. And in any given week, it could be a bad matchup for you. And all of a sudden, you go from being favored in that game, like a Philadelphia on Thursday night, to losing the game. And I think this is, by definition, that type of game for the Patriots. And look, in games like this, getting off to a good start is huge. Scoring first, putting the pressure on them, making them play from behind. It's huge. And the Patriots are going to need to get off to a good start today, John, because if New Orleans scores first, and Kellen Moore is patient when it comes to the running game. He will run the football. He will stick with the running game. You know, it's interesting because a friend of mine made a good point to me this week. And he said that part of the reason he thinks the Eagles are struggling is they've gone away from featuring Saquon Barkley and running the football. And I think this goes back to a point you made a few minutes ago about the importance of Kellen Moore in Philadelphia. And I think that's where they miss him, is I think his willingness to run the football, to run Jalen Hurts, to be more committed to the ground game. He's going to do that in New Orleans. We saw a couple weeks ago, they go up to Buffalo, lose 31-19, but almost rush for 200 yards. So I think that's another key point in this game today. Moore is going to be patient with that running game, even if they're down 7 to 10 points. He's not going to abandon it, put the game in Spencer Rattler's lap and tell him to go win it. He's going to stick with the running game. And I think that in a lot of ways, that's going to put Zach Kerr a little bit in a bind, because I said this in my game plan. I think on first down, especially in plus territory, you got to play more 8-man boxes, because I do think that they're going to want to run the football. They're obviously going to want to run the football in second and third and short. But I do think it's finding that balance between, all right, we want to rush 4, maybe 5 play coverage, but then we also have to screw that safety down pre-snap and get into that 8-man box, because again, this is a team and this is a coach that's patient with the running game. And sometimes those guys are hard to defend against. Look, I'll give you a couple of examples that are not Patriots related. You know, I help out over at King Philip. We're down 12-0 to Foxborough a couple of weeks ago. We're only down by 2 scores. We're getting the ball out of the half. Our adjustment was, we're going to stick with our running game. We're going to run the football. That's who we are. That's what we do. Our running game got us back in the game. Fast forward to Friday night. I'm covering the Bryant at Brown game. 12-0 at the half. Same score. Brown doesn't come out and throw the ball in the second half. They outscore Bryant 29-7. But what do? They lean on Quentin Brown and Matt Childs, and they start running the football. And they start moving the pocket for James Murphy, and they give him easy throws, and they score 29 points and win the game. So my point is, in bringing up those 2 examples, and I think it just goes to show you that football is football. If you're a coach who's patient with the running game, you're going to stick with it. You're not going to go away from it, even if you're playing from behind early. I expect Kellen Moore today to be pretty committed to that running game.
It's a lot like a boxer, just a lot of body shots, and then you get to the 8th, 9th round, your opponent is kind of worn down. Same thing with the running game. And the Patriots stuck with the running game Sunday night just enough. I mean, they weren't effective running the football, which was a surprise because Buffalo has difficulty stopping the run, but just enough to make play action work, take a little pressure off of Drake May, and put yourself in decent field position, right? So you still can do that. The Philadelphia thing, and I know this is Patriots Pulse preview, but the Philadelphia thing is, I think they're adamant to prove that Jalen Hurts is a top 5 quarterback. And they're going to say, look, you're going to be the MVP of the league, and here you go. This is like Russell Wilson at the end of the Super Bowl against the Patriots. We want him to be the MVP, not Marshawn Lynch, so we're going to let him throw his 3rd touchdown pass. That could be the case, and they're working away from their strengths. But I think when you look at that, we're both advocates of running the football. It doesn't have to be 38 carries for 200 yards, but you've got to have that component in your offense just to take some pressure off the quarterback. Because if he's going back there and it's a jailbreak, they're not concerned with the run, good luck.
Now, all that being said, the Patriots' run defense has been terrific this season.
Yes.
They have been terrific. Okay, looking at some of the underlying numbers. And before I do that, our good friend Bill Vaughn checks in. Bill checks in on all our shows. Bill, always great to hear from you, my friend. I know we'll be hearing from you tomorrow night when me and Stone start talking some UMass football. And feel free to jump in on Wednesday night, too, when me and Ryan Barry talk about the Minutemen. Minutemen Nation last night. I haven't seen this kind of vigor from UMass football fans in over a year. Man, they came out in full force last night. It was not good. I didn't want to enter the Lions' den, so I didn't comment on it. But maybe tomorrow night, jump on, Bill. I'd love to get your thoughts on what's going on there right now, because I don't know how you fix that program. I give up. Does anyone know what's going on with Gonzalez? He's a pivotal piece in any upset bid today. As we said earlier, Bill, he was a limited participant during the week. He is listed as questionable. That is trending in the direction that he's going to play. I don't think he's a true game time decision, but he may end up being a game time decision here, and we'll find out in about an hour. Inactives come out at 11:30 usually, so we'll know in about an hour or so as to whether or not he's going to play. As always, a lot of great friends of ours in the media that are down there covering the game today. Mike Reese, Andrew Callahan, to name a few, just a bunch of great folks down there that cover the Patriots. They could potentially break something, so keep an eye on those guys and what they're reporting. But as far as we know, it sounds like he's going to play. Again, coming into the game, he was listed as questionable, so we'll see. And to Bill's point, John, he's a big part of the plan today. we talked about this earlier about New Orleans perimeter skill and how they can create matchups and potential problems. If he doesn't play, that, and I'm stating the obvious here, if he doesn't play, that's a major problem.
Yeah, go back to last week against Buffalo. You make the case he was the best defensive player for the Patriots. He forced Josh Allen into looking at his second and third reads because Christian Gonzalez is so good that he can kind of shut down one side of the field. He's a top 5 cornerback in this league. Now, can he play with this type of injury? No, it's a cornerback. We're not talking about really difficult to play with a hamstring injury no matter where you're on the football field, but especially a cornerback. And they're going to have to just manage this throughout the season to make sure that he's getting healthier and that he's able to play as you wind down into the middle part of the season and later. So, yeah, he's a big component to that defense. That defense looks completely different when he's out there. It's just it's such a major X factor.
Yeah, no, I agree. Bill checks back in around New England on fall Sundays now. I'm an Auburn fan / dad. Also tough day. Yep. Well, tough day for them too. I believe they ended up losing to Georgia. At least they were down 20-10 when I was watching last night. So I'm assuming they lost. Hugh Freeze isn't exactly Hugh Freeze isn't exactly on solid ground there on the plains. I mean, and given his last name, I mean, if he ends up on the hot seat, he's going to melt.
That's bad. That's really bad. You'll be here all week. Try the veal. And Auburn certainly doesn't have Cam Newton circa 2010. So
no,
they're not making up for that.
They do not. So no, and that's just it. And again, and look, I mean, Hugh Freeze, good offensive coach, snake oil salesman. It's kind of been his reputation, and he's lived up to it. You are watching the Patriots Pulse preview show. I'm John Cernitas. As always, I'm joined by my partner, John Sapichetti. Patriots traveling to New Orleans today to take on the New Orleans Saints. Again, as we said earlier, all time the Patriots are 10-6 against the Saints, 5-1 in New Orleans, including 4-1 in the Superdome. Their only loss coming on Monday Night Football in 2009. Excuse me. Willem checks in. Willem, great to hear from you, man. Another fan of our shows. Go Pats today. Unfortunately, don't have the TV channel. You're down in Connecticut. You're down in Connecticut, I believe, from what I remember. If that's the case, yeah, you might be stuck with another game. So, if nothing else, if you don't have it, make sure you jump on. If you can get 98.5, down there. Bob Sosi, Scott Zolak, awesome broadcast. I'm sure you're familiar with them. Those guys do a great job, and good buddy of ours, Mark Capello, produces the game. So there you go, giving my guys at the Sports Hub a plug here. But yeah, another way to catch the game, but hopefully you can. The other thing you could do is if you go on NFL.com, the Red Zone feature on there, it allows you to at least see when either team is in the red zone or to get highlights of the game. So there are ways to watch the game. You may not get the full game, but at least you'll know what's happening. Thanks for checking in, man. Appreciate it.
Well, do as I did and sign up for Sunday Ticket and then have your favorite player get injured in week 2, and now it's kind of worthless. But
right.
I still check.
Maybe he doesn't want to take out a second mortgage to pay for Sunday tickets. So.
That's true too. I got it. I got it because a friend of mine's a student, so it was like half the price, so it wasn't that bad.
Because now it costs you about $1,000 a year to consume the NFL. It's ridiculous.
It's absurd. They're going to
eat
themselves
before
this all ends. I mean, in the next 10 years, they're going to grow in our lifetime, but maybe the next generation that comes along, it's just going to be too much. People are going to say enough. Pigs get fed. Hogs get slaughtered, as Mark Cuban oftentimes says. Got to be careful with overexposure and taking your customers for granted. I mean, this is a guy who's a Patriots fan in Connecticut, wants to watch the game, and they've kind of shut him out.
Yeah, and I think a big part of it is for me, it's also the fact that when is enough with a lot of this stuff. And I don't want to veer from what we're supposed to be doing here, but $1,000 a year to watch the NFL, that's just ridiculous. It's gluttonous. And I can't stand it. And it really bothers me that we're at a place now, especially in these economic times, when you're the number one sport in this country. And let's face it, football is by far the number one sport in this country. I don't even think it's close. But don't abuse that. Because here's the thing. Yes, you've capitalized on the fact that these other 3 sports leagues have been poorly run the last 20-plus years. But that doesn't mean that you can abuse it now because you're at the top of the mountain and people consume the product. To your point, John, I don't want to wait for another generation to correct this. Correct it now. You can still make a lot of money and not force people to have to spend $1,000 a year to watch your product. It's ridiculous. Well, we got a couple more comments in here. A good friend of our shows, Ken Matthias, checks in. The mighty Ken Matthias. Key players, but can be thrown and ran on. Okay, so I'm assuming he's talking about the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
Ken also checks back in. Actually, before we go back to Ken, Willem checks back in. I'm a real New Englander, still just within the New York border. Haha, love it, because look, I love Connecticut, but anybody in Fairfield County forward thinks that they're a New Yorker, and you're not. You're in New England, damn it. You're a New Englander. You're not a New Yorker. All that being said, I get it. If they're Yankee fans and Giant fans, it is closer to go to those games than to come up here, but still, you're still in New England. Well, appreciate you checking in, brother. Thanks as always. Again, you do a great job following along on all our shows. Ken checks back in. The NFL needs to be like college. How Saturdays is all about college, and the NFL, you only. I don't know why you're speaking in in chopped up sentences here, my friend. Ken checks back in. Get like 4 games, if that, on Sunday. All right.
Eventually,
just get out of bed, Ken. That's the question. Are you still shaking off the cobwebs?
Hopefully. I
know Ken's not a drinker. That I can vouch for.
Well,
minus red zone, he says. And then he likes his nickname, the mighty Ken Matthias. All right. Go ahead, John.
I like that. I think eventually the league's going to go to a la carte. You know, like you're sitting there on Sunday at 1:00 and you go, Rams-Ravens is a really good game. Let me order that thing up. And you go from there. But again, now you're going to share the proceeds because the league is totally shared, gets whacked up into 32 different pieces of pie, whether you're the worst team or the best team.
But they're already doing the a la carte thing, aren't they? Isn't that what Sunday Ticket is? You can watch any game you want?
Right, but they're all available. So at 1:00 today or whatever.
Are you saying that you're only going to – I'm assuming you're saying that you're only going to pay for the games you want.
Right. Yeah, like so okay. It might be $5 to watch.
Like my buddy Kenny, he's a Patriots fan, and I know he loves the Patriots, and he's a diehard. He's also a fraudulent 49ers fan. So I just called him out on the show. I love it. He could pay to watch his 49ers in the 4:00 game. Okay. I see what you're saying.
That would be a la carte. Now you can't. If you want to, you have to get.
I know what a la carte is. I'm fat. I like to eat. I know what a la carte is.
Yeah, especially if you go to the better restaurants like the Italian restaurants instead of the Greek restaurants.
Right. Okay. Anyway, I don't see
you.
Listen. I don't see people going nuts over Italian yogurt. Spare me, okay? Italian olives are fake. Greek olives are real. Our food is catching up. It's just as good, if not better. So, and it hasn't been bastardized by these American versions of our food. So that's the other piece. Your food has been corrupted by people in this country. It's not even authentic. People in Italy eat way different.
Exactly. But also just
they eat more like Greeks.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of olive oil. There's a lot of fish.
And guess what? It's Greek olive oil because that's the real olive oil.
Italian olive oil is pretty good too.
Well, Greeks brought olives to Italy, so.
Well, I mean, this is many, many years ago. I mean, before that it was Julius Caesar. But what I want to make sure is you guys should just give up on pizza. You just can't do it right.
Well, I hate to tell you, but Greek pizza is just as popular as Italian pizza. It's a personal taste. I prefer Italian pizza, but Greek pizza is very popular, man. I have a lot of friends who prefer Greek pizza.
Yeah. Can I talk to them?
You can talk to them all you want, but the bottom line is you guys got lazy with pizza. You allowed other people to infiltrate your little gig, and now they're making a different style of it, and people like it. That's your fault.
Tomorrow, I'm going to the best pizza place in the area. I'm going to Pizzeria Regina in the North End.
The problem is, and I don't want to veer off topic here. We'll save this for some other show. But the bottom line is, you guys got to up your game. You got lazy and complacent with your food. It's the same stuff. Like, enough. Do something else with food. It doesn't all have to involve pasta and sauce. Move on. All right. Now, I want to get back to the Patriots Saints game. We got sidetracked by food and gluttony and the mighty Ken Matthias, and we need to move back and talk some football. Here I am saying earlier that I think Kellen Moore is going to be patient with the running game, and he's going to stick with it. Patriots have a top 5 run defense in the league right now. But when you look at and these are the metrics that I look at, John. I don't get into PFF grades and all this other stuff. I like what the NFL has done with from an X and O standpoint, I like what they've done with getting into the raw numbers situationally. And what I mean by that is, and I'm just going to throw these at you because I know you love numbers and you're a numbers guy. Rushing under center. New Orleans is 25th in the league in runs from in success rate and runs from under center. Patriots are second in the league in stopping the run when the quarterback is under center. In terms of design runs, i.e. quarterback runs, New Orleans is 22nd. I mean, that's a hard that's hard to gauge because you're literally, if you're running quarterback draws or quarterback powers, they're not really running Spencer Rattler that much unless it's on zone read stuff. Patriots are third in the league in stopping designed runs. Overall rushing efficiency, and this is a big number, New Orleans is 23rd in the league running the ball. So as patient as Kellen Moore is at running the football, they're 23rd in the league in overall rushing efficiency. The Patriots are third. Now, this is a big one because I talked about the importance of 8-man boxes on first down. Rushing versus a stacked box, which an 8-man box would be considered a stacked box. New Orleans is 26th in the league. The Patriots are 6th. All right. Now, I'm not, and then I'm going to give you two more here, and then I'm not going to get into the rest of them. But rushing inside the tackles, i.e. A gap, B gap, New Orleans is 26th in the league at running the football. The Patriots are 8th in the league against those types of runs. In terms of rushing outside the tackles, the Saints are 17th in the league, so that's off tackle outside. Patriots are 4th in the league against outside runs, which is pretty good. That means that they're athletic. Their linebackers can spill, chase, and finish. And then one other one that I think is important, rushing versus a light box, which I think the Patriots are going to be in a lot today. If you want to play coverage, typically you're in a 5-man box. New Orleans is 17th in the league running the football. The Patriots are 9th stopping the run when they're in a light box. That's a key matchup to watch there. If you're looking for a matchup when it comes to them running the football and the Patriots stopping the run, that's the one to watch right there. Because like I said, again, because of their perimeter skill and their ability to make big plays, I think the Patriots are going to be in cover 2 a lot. I think they're going to be in quarters a lot. I think they're going to be in some cover 2 variations, i.e. 2-man, 2-trap. So I think you're going to see a lot of 5-man boxes, and it's going to be interesting to see, depending on down and distance, how New Orleans attacks those boxes. So the running game and how the Patriots control the running game is going to be a big part of today's game.
So you think the Patriots could control the running game of the New Orleans Saints by not having to overexert itself, play a 5 or 6-man box, and you can still control that running game because you have Milton Williams and Christian Barmore, who both played outstanding so far this season. That gives you an edge in most games, right? When you control the interior, the opponent's offensive line, and now you concentrate on what they can do defensively and put the ball in Spencer Rattler's hands and see what he can do. That's obviously something that I think would favor the Patriots as well, provided Christian Gonzalez plays. So those are impressive numbers, and it speaks highly to the Patriots what they're able to do against the run game. And then we'll see New Orleans, which is trying to, I think, shorten games. When you're at a deficit in talent, that's what they're trying to do.
And it takes pressure off your young quarterback when you do that.
Yeah, you're just trying to get the thing going, and you look up at the scoreboard in the third quarter, and you're down 5 in Buffalo, and you're like, well, this is a win so far. Maybe we outplayed them down the stretch. So that's what they're going to try to do. Obviously, is Spencer Rattler good enough to go off and throw for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns? I mean, I guess every guy that starts in the NFL is capable of doing that occasionally, but is that something that would shock you if he did that?
It would. And admittedly, I'm not a big Spencer Rattler guy. I don't think he's the quarterback of the future there. I think he's a placeholder. I think you can get enough out of him where you could stay competitive if you're them this season, but he's not going to be the guy that turns your fortunes around. That being said, again, I think that's the game within the game, right? And that's how you have to look at those matchups to try to figure out how this game's going to play out. And I think ultimately, look, if you're the New Orleans Saints, you don't want to put this game in his lap, as I said earlier. You don't want him to have to go out and win it for you. But if the Patriots can score first, make them play from behind, if the Patriots can get off to the same start they did against Miami, let's say in week 2, get up on these guys 14-0, 17-0, I'm not going to sit here and say the game is over, but the game is over. Because at that point, now your pass rush can do its thing. You can pin your ears back. You can get after this young quarterback. As much as Kellen Moore is patient and wants to run the ball, he's going to have to get out of that plan. So that's why it's imperative to get off to a good start. Make them play from behind. Make them get out of their plan. And I know that a lot of people sometimes overemphasize these things, John, but it also takes the crowd out of the game, which in an atmosphere like that down there, I think is vitally important. Ken checks back in. It's too many streaming services for games. Ken, we agree with you, brother. We all couldn't agree with you more. It 100% is too much. Willem checks back in. Our guy in Connecticut, I love the food talk. Well, John and I love to talk about food, so you came to the right place, my friend. Thanks for checking in again. And Ken checks back in one more time. Can the Pats defense contain Kamara as they have contained running backs this season? John, what do you think? Can they contain Kamara?
I think they can. He's an explosive player. Still, again, we were kidding about his advanced age, but he's someone who could take a swing pass and take it 20, 30 yards downfield. He's great yards after catch. So if he gives you one or two of those, he can flip the field, get you into scoring position, and make the game that much closer. It's going to be important, obviously, how they match up with him. If they're playing 6 defensive backs at certain times, would you think that one of them is going to be assigned to Alvin Kamara as much as anything? Because he still is averaging more yards per catch than Chris Olave is. Chris Olave is only averaging 7.3 yards per catch, and he's their best wide receiver. So Kamara could be the key to this passing game more so than even the wide receivers. So that's going to be a big, big thing for the Patriots.
Yeah, he's had some big passing game days in his career as a receiver. I believe he's 10 catches away from 600 for his career, which would put him in the top 5 all time. So he's, look, he's a difference maker. He still is. And that's a guy, if you're them, come the trade deadline next month, that's a guy you should consider potentially putting on the market because I still think he has value. And I think a contender will look at a player like him and say, you know what, I'm willing to give up an early day 3 pick for a guy like this if I think he can come in and make a difference. And I think he's a guy – he could potentially even fetch you a 3rd rounder, depending on who the team is and how they're going to use him and how much they value him. So he still has value. He's a guy that could certainly impact this game today. He's a guy that the Patriots obviously have put some time into defensively in terms of their game planning. But I do think you want to limit his effectiveness today. You don't want him to be a factor because if he gets going early, especially, he's going to be a problem. Now, offensively, what kind of a day are you expecting from Drake May?
I'm just looking for a solid game. Now, he's had 4 straight games where his passer rating was over 100. The talk Tuesday, nationally, not just locally, nationally, was, is this guy a top 10 quarterback already? I think
it's
he's
amazing how much
it's
pivoted, John. Now,
it really is.
Every show in America, the question is being asked, is he the best quarterback in that class? He was a distant 3rd going into last season, and even in many ways going into this offseason. Now, all of a sudden, people are putting him ahead of Williams and in some cases Daniels.
Right. And you were on him when he was at North Carolina. So I give you a ton of credit for that. I wasn't sold on him. Even last year, I wasn't sold on him. But the more I talk to you and just the way he handles himself, he's that guy. And so much of the quarterback position is more than just throwing a football. It's the leadership. It's what you have in your heart. It's what you have in your head. And can people follow you? And he seems to have all those intangibles. So I'm high on him right now. That's why I picked him to win last week, because I thought he could go up there and play a really, really solid game. He was better than solid. He was darn near spectacular, especially on a couple of those throws that were like, whoa. The one he rolled out right and hit Diggs 35 yards downfield, that looked like Aaron Rodgers. And there's not a lot of guys in the league that can make that throw. But what he needs to do in this game is make sure there aren't turnovers. If he goes out and is 21 of 30 for 240 yards and they run the ball effectively and he throws for a touchdown or 2, takes care of the football and they win, that's a great sign. That means now his good, solid average game is really good, because that's when you start to become an elite quarterback. The top guys, their floor is so much higher than the average guys. They don't have bad games in general. That's what you want to get to with Drake May.
And really, for me, as far as the offensive game plan today, I'm throwing the ball, man. I'm coming out and I'm throwing it 35, 40 times today. I really am. And really, the reason I'm doing it is your running game has not been that good. Their run defense has actually been pretty good. It's not elite, but it's good enough. And their secondary to me is vulnerable. And I think this is one of those rare games on their schedule where they will have matchup advantages in the passing game. And I would take them. I think Stephon Diggs could have another big day today. I think Kayshon Boutte could have a nice game today. I think Hunter Henry can have a nice game today. Same thing with Matt Collins. They're going to have matchup advantages. I'd like to see them get into more empty today. Throw your 3-step and 5-step game out of empty. I think this is a secondary you can attack. I think that this is a pass rush that's going to play into this offensive line's hands. Their pass rush is bottom 3rd in the league. They're one of the worst pass rushing teams in the league. So for me, offensively, if there was ever a week you really want to get your receivers going and get some other guys going besides Diggs, he's been the focal point the last 2 weeks. This is the game to do it because, again, they don't rush the passer well, and that secondary has some talent, but they're also a secondary that's ripe to be taken advantage of in one-on-one matchups. So I think that the game plan this week really should be a 65-35 pass to run plan. It's going to be there. And look, you hit the nail on the head with me. Really, with him, it's going to be about taking care of the football and limiting the mistakes and being consistent. And another reason I want to throw the football a lot today is I want to get him into a place where he is consistently throwing the football, because for all the spectacular plays, and even last week, he still has that 1 or 2 or 3 throws a game that leaves you scratching your head where you go, what was he thinking there? What's he doing? So the consistency is a big part of this for me. And I will say this. I think the other thing here is, look, you're right. Nationally, the conversation is starting to change with him. Kevin Stone pointed this out at the beginning of the year, and now I look back on it, and at the time I kind of agreed with him. Now I'm going to go back to my natural position with him, and I'm going to disagree with him because he's just so easy to disagree with. But he made a point about his temperament, and I thought at the time it was a valid point, and he was frustrated with his temperament, especially in post-game press conferences. But, John, I think that temperament is helping him now. I think the fact that he's even-keeled, he doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low, I think that the folksy, aw shucks attitude that he has kind of helps him here. The stage, he showed it last Sunday night. The stage isn't too big for him. The moment isn't too big for him. He stays at an even level. He's even keeled, and I think that's coming in handy right now.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Tom Brady for 20 years. He wasn't that guy, but he also was able to flip the switch and get back to where he had to be. Like, he'd come out the start of the game, let's effing go. You know, he's all charged up. It appeared like he had like as many Starbucks venti lattes as Dan Campbell had. But then he would kind of reel it in, and then he became what he had to be for the rest of that game. I have always liked quarterbacks that are even keeled. I kind of compare quarterbacks to pilots. I don't want to get on a plane and see a pilot that's a bit zany and a little out there. I wouldn't feel as comfortable getting on that plane unless I saw the pilot is in control. That's how I like my quarterbacks. And I like that part of it because there's going to be a lot of ups and downs for a quarterback. I mean, there's going to be interceptions. There's going to be bad throws. You're going to get sacked. You're going to be frustrated. How you recover from that is so important. And I'm impressed with Drake May at the age of 23 doing all of that. It's really a reason he's starting to move up into becoming a very good quarterback.
Yeah, you make quarterbacks sound like they're steaks. I like my quarterbacks, like as if you employ them. Willem says, I miss the good old days of cable TV. I miss the good old days of cable TV. Streaming sucks and is soulless. Well said. And I think that's the perfect bow to put on that conversation, because I think 9 out of 10 people would agree with you, and that 10th person is a moron if they don't agree with you. Ken checks back in. Would it be realistic for the Pats to trade for Kamara? Sure, but I don't think that they're going to be willing to give up a high-end draft pick to get him. So unless New Orleans is willing to take 50 cents on the dollar, I'd be surprised if the Patriots would be in on him. The other question is, how does he fit in here? You still have Stevenson. Yes, you've got the fumbling issues. You still want to give Henderson his 15, 20 touches a game. You don't want to limit his growth and development. So I think somebody like a Zach Moss might be a better fit here than an Alvin Kamara. And finally, Bill checks back in. Couldn't agree more on going empty, plus O-line strength so far as pass blocking. Yeah, offensive line, last 3 weeks in particular, has been really good in pass pro. You had a couple breakdowns last week early on, but for the most part, Doug Marrone, the offensive line coaches made some nice adjustments. They did a better job as the game went on, but they have been much better the last 3 weeks. Again, this is one of those games, John, as I said earlier, where you're going to have the opportunity to throw the football given the matchup. They really have to emphasize the passing game today and get after these guys through the air. All right, John, how do you see this one playing out here? We got about a minute left. Final thoughts on this one. What is your game day prediction? How do you see this one playing out for the Patriots?
I think it's going to be somewhat of a slog, but they're going to win 23-17. The difference in the game is the Patriots have the better quarterback. The more experienced coach, although I'm very high on Kellen Moore, I like the Patriots to win by 6. The line's 4.5. I wouldn't recommend touching it because that's too close to the line. 23-17 Patriots.
Yeah, I could see it being a 7 to 10 point game as well. At best it's a 31-17 win for the Patriots, but I agree with you. I see it more the other way. I see it a little higher scoring. I see it being a 28-17, 27-17 game. 4.5. I mean, I would put my money on the Patriots in that situation. I think they can win this game by a touchdown. But that being said, I agree with you. This is going to be a tougher game than people think. I don't know if I agree that it'll be a slog per se, but I'm with you. I think this is a 7 to 10 point game if the Patriots win it. Heck, I'll take it a step further. I mean, I'm 50-50 on this one from a betting standpoint. I wouldn't be opposed to putting my money on New Orleans either and seeing the Patriots win this thing by 3.
Mhm.
I think it's a tough game to call, but you talk about that 3-game road trip and how they've never won 3 straight road games in their history. If they're going to lose one of these 3 after last week, this is going to be the one. Tennessee sucks. They're going to beat them next week. This is the one that I think that if they're going to lose and not get 3 road wins for the first time in their history, this will be the game that doesn't happen. If they lose this one, by the way, super disappointing coming off of last week. Now, all of a sudden, you have to step back and be like, all right, this team is all over the friggin' place. We don't have a beat on them. We don't know what they're going to be come season's end. And they could very well lose it, John. And the reality is they lost to the Raiders. So I can stomach the Pittsburgh loss because I still think Pittsburgh is a potential playoff team. But that Raiders loss, the Raiders have sucked ass since that game. So I don't – that one is the one that really bothers me more than anything else. So we'll see.
Look at the landscape. If they take care of business today and next week they'll be 5-2. Then they've got Atlanta, the most like up and down team in the league, coming to town.
They might beat Buffalo tonight. Who knows?
Right. They could beat the 85 Bears
or
and then
tomorrow
lose
night,
to the 76 Buccaneers they could lose to. But then you have Atlanta and Cleveland in Foxborough. Cleveland does not play well on the road. They're much tougher at home. And then games down the stretch that you thought were going to be really difficult at Baltimore, at Cincinnati. Who knows what those teams are going to be by the time you play them? Are they going to be in I wouldn't say tank mode. That's not the situation. But are they less than what you expected them to be when the schedules came out? And now all of a sudden you're looking at maybe compiling a really, really good record.
Yeah, no. Should be interesting. John, great work as always, my friend. Always great talking to you. Let's do this again next week.
Sure.
All right. Well, that'll do it for this Patriots Pulse preview show. For John Sapichetti, I'm John Serenitas. Enjoy the game today. And as always, don't forget to immediately jump on after the game for the Patriots Pulse post-game show. Me and John Lyons will break down all the action, share our thoughts with you. And as always, these are the fans' shows. Jump on. Let us know what you think. We'd love to hear from you. Until next week, have a great day. Enjoy the game. And as always, peace.